Hello everybody, part two. Shouldn't be any more interruptions. It's craft day in Hamilton for a couple communities. Very, very busy, and I had to get out of the way as people were coming in, and that's okay. So give it a minute to let people log on. We'll continue off where I left off with China. From there, we're going to get into Roseanne Archibald, National Chief, First Nations. What's happened there? Beautiful presentation on Friday. We're going to get into Russia. The two resolutions, they've lost one. They come back with a second one. For all the loyal followers who've kept up, read our resolution, check out the Nazi resolution by Russia, overlapping the resolution that we presented to all P5. Russia's heavily working at it. They had a mass majority of UN states, 54 nations, voted no, and they got the veto from USA, the 54 nations of the Commonwealth. No surprise there. This is the battle. This is what we're going through. I went into Peng and the accusation of rape. In the first video of this, it's all about that. I don't want to go over it too much, but we'll start there again just to get this kickoff going to this video. And then we're going to get into, at the end, Jason Kenney, Alberta, Treaty Indians, which is all of Alberta, even with the Arctic overlap. He says about incomes for First Nations people. We're going to break down the truth of all that for all Canadians and absolutely all my Albertans, as Alberta's my home province. But to begin with, Peng, just to keep this video on the same line, China's cultural history for thousands of years. If you haven't read about geisha, what geishas are, what women are in the Chinese culture, read it, look into it. I don't give my views or any support of views of anything. I just give you, just like the Oxford paper, the nature of international law as it really is. Everything I do for Canadians, all First Peoples, everybody, is always the truth as it really is. With all the drama, with all the, let's take that down a notch. No, I give it to you factual, accurate, straight, and as it is. That's it. I didn't make this world. I definitely didn't make my country. I didn't have anything to do with the system that we're in today right here in Canada. I highlight other nations so that you all know. First Nations, it really applies to you. You are of a matriarchal system. Canada, founded through colonialism in a patriarchal system of class structure. China, imperialism. What led to colonialism? China never went through colonialism. However, they are thousands of years of imperial system based in a patriarchal system, meaning men are everything, women are absolutely nothing. Nothing. Communism is a new concept in this world, a new form of government, the newest, absolutely the newest in the world today. Communism. It's only been around 90 years. 90 years. That's it. That's all. I don't agree with it. I don't believe one size fits everybody. I don't support any of that type of socialism. However, that being said, patriarchal systems of imperial systems, for us, of the European Canada, 900 years of an imperial system, largely class structure of patriarchal meaning women are nothing. Women have never even really won rape cases until the 1970s. It wasn't even against the law to rape a woman before 1892 in Canada. That's a reality. I did a video on this. People don't like it. Crying in their soup. I didn't make the system. I definitely didn't make the Criminal Code of Canada. I didn't even make the patriarchal system we live in. My last name's Bjorkman. Our ancestry is not, I repeat, not patriarchal. Where my people come from, where my last name comes from, the history of my people is not patriarchal. Not patriarchal. Like most of you, at some point, my family immigrated here. and was put into the patriarchal system. That's reality. I've spent much reading to get through to this point, discovering all kinds of things I present to all of you in real, credible, verifiable, factual history by the greatest minds in the world. I spend no less than about 20 hours a week reading, and I'm very good at it. I've gotten very good at it in 4 years. I'm blessed that I can read large volumes of works and retain a lot of it. I know there's a lot of people out there that have comprehension issues. I'm lucky, I'm blessed that way, so I try to do all of that work for you. It's not my views. Real news is based on only truth. Opinion news is a relatively new craft here in the Western civilized world, where now it's opinion news. And they say that to you. Most of the articles you read, opinion, meaning not substantiated in fact. It's what an individual believes, irregardless, which isn't a word, but the opposite of fact. Opposite of fact, meaning fiction. If it's science, you can call that science fiction. You can go into any library and you can look in the truth and the fiction section. You should all know this. Opinion news is riddled and perpetuated in absolute fiction. Most of it. Somebody's opinion, not based in fact. Largely not. Or they've taken one side of a truth, meaning it's a half-truth, and that is what you're supposed to believe in. Just like we're supposed to believe that it's in the best interests of a UN state called Canada to give up all of your international legal system and governance to foreign powers, foreign first-class citizens. 2.2% of the Commonwealth is Canadian citizens, yet you fund the Commonwealth, other UN states, that's true, but they're all members of the Commonwealth. They're all over the world, the former British Empire. And you fund 30% of the world's population through your tax revenue, and you can't afford it. And you all get mad and you say, it's the UN. Why are they called non-binding agreements? Well, the Charter of the Commonwealth brought that forward since 2012. They've been working at it since 1985, absolutely, after the fall of South Africa. That's what happened. Just like Nazi Germany, they panicked. The crown, the real crown, Queen Elizabeth and her family, the whole family, comes in and says, you know what, governments of the Commonwealth, these independent UN states, you've all lied, and quite a bit number of you, Canada being the worst, you've lied to your people. You were freed in World War II. You stole the crown for yourself. You've used in our name. All of this you did in the name of the Queen and the family. Well, guess what? In 2012, the Queen said, I'm going to rat you out, and the whole royal family, we're going to rat you out. Or you're going to allow us full control over all of your international relations with all other UN states. We won't govern you nationally, but all international decisions will go through us. We'll create a board, and on that board, each one of you from the first class, whoever wins your national crown that you got from our system, will capitulate to our crown internationally. Meaning, we come up with a new law, you accept it, whether it's for the good of your people or not. That's reality. But getting back into the video now, I've touched on China, imperialism, hammered out colonialism, patriarchal system, and given you the crown. China, there is no rape in China. Sorry, ladies. First Peoples, if you ever want to understand China, understand that. 2,000 years, that tennis player has no hope in hell. Sorry, everybody. I didn't make China. I don't agree with it. I definitely don't agree with it. I'm just telling you what the legal and cultural system that's thousands of years old in China that does not want to be broken. No communism, no democracy, no monarchy, no other system is going to change that for the Chinese people except for time and generational education. Are they there? Nope. And I don't see it for a very, very long time. You'd have to have aggressive education night and day for many generations to wipe that out. I don't see it in China. And you can go through all of Southeast Asia to the Muslim countries who cut off the genitalia of the female body anatomy. At least China got rid of that too. I should have added that in my other post because they're eradicating that too. At least they're doing that. Again, I don't support communism. I'm just telling women and those looking at patriarchal systems, at least communism has gotten rid of and abolished a lot of things. Uyghur Muslims, people talk about that. I think you should all, before you jump on the bandwagon of genocide, like the actual nations on international law, the P5, have had to retract some statements because genital mutilation, again, I didn't make the Muslim world Islamic culture, and it's not all of Islamic and Muslim culture of that religion, but there is a lot of them in the Southeast Asia world, and that's what China's eradicating now. Men, would you like the tip of your penis cut off? We're not talking circumcision, but the penis cut off, because in a lot of those sects, the genital mutilation is so that the women can't enjoy the pleasure. Their clitoris is removed. They have 1 to 4 in the genital mutilations, varying sex of the Islamic world. Okay? Sorry. People don't like to hear this stuff, but it's not just a one-size-fits-all. We can't just go, oh, communism's bad, da-da. Hey, I don't agree with it either, but I'm not going to lie about it. I'm not going to lie about everything going on in China and blame it on the last 90 years. Because there's a lot of women born today in China who are walking around just fine, aren't shuffling their feet because their feet are crunched in a ball and they can't run away from a man, okay? There's a lot worse things have happened in history, even just in modern history, and even in the patriarchal system of Canada. If you thought rape was a crime, it hasn't been in Canada until just relatively recent years. Women didn't even have the right to vote until recent years. Patriarchal systems. USA had to fight that out of their system. They're 90 years ahead of Canada on the crime of rape. They were publishing about rape in the 1812 war. That's reality, everybody. They were publishing the crime of rape against women. But in Canada, not one publication. None whatsoever until the early 1900s. We're talking the Titanic. And even then, very, very limited. Very limited. All the way up until the 70s. It wasn't until the 70s you started to see convictions. That's truth. Okay, I spent a lot of time on that. Now we're going to go back and we're going to talk about Russia. I'm going to hit that. Russia. They put up 2 UNSC resolutions out to the General Assembly. A lot of overlap on the one that we all crafted, a whole bunch of us crafted, went out through emails. I had many videos on it. We built a resolution. It was released to you. It went out to all of the P5. Russia took it, as I told you all. Every one of the P5 will take, and they will decide what they're going to add, subtract, remove from it. The Nazi one, a lot have taken from ours, and a lot removed. Now they're doing a second one. A lot taken from ours, a lot removed. They're fighting to get a resolution passed to address the broken colonial systems and only to acknowledge the Commonwealth. This is by President Putin. It's published on the president's page. You can read it where he says the Commonwealth countries that are actually independent. And not a lot are. Of those 54 nations on the international law, Russia goes into NATO, everything going on, what USA is doing with the executive power, what the executive power isn't doing, but the military and other international treaties with European countries are doing outside of the president, the House, and the Senate of the United States of America. Now, I'm sure Joe Biden's going to go, hey, wait a minute, what's going on here? And that whole Biden administration, as would Trump's. Presidents are not perfect, but that institution called America is there. When new information comes forward, they can change direction. That's the beauty of the Constitution of the United States of America. You can change it. You can change it in all kinds of different avenues. Senate, House, Supreme Court, and the executive itself. Different avenues are there, and there's all kinds of checks and balances to make sure your information gets there. So it's incredible. It's scary, because is the world going to be plunged into a World War III? There's only so much Russia's going to take before they're going to start to fight back. That's reality. And it's not right for patriarchal, imperial, colonial systems to think that their people of the third class should be forced to go to war and fight in the name of. What are we fighting in the name of for? What are we going to rip the world apart for? To go back to colonialism? To allow countries like Canada to flourish? If you all haven't noticed, housing bubble crisis grows unimaginably. Canada keeps bringing in immigrants, keeps hammering on the taxpayer. Inflation way out of control. The Bank of Canada can't rein it in. If you haven't read anything released by the Financial Post through the directors of the Bank of Canada, they've lost all control of absolutely their formulas. They can't even use unemployment anymore to toggle inflation. It's gone. Well, why is that? Because we are practicing colonialism. We have record immigration, unsustainable immigration. Without the housing, it will never be affordable. Getting taxpayers to pay $10 a day daycare, it sounds great and wonderful. The reality is you're just putting people to work. You're going to have to tax them substantially. Or you keep deficit spending, meaning borrowing or printing money, lowering the value of your citizens until the collateral called the land of Canada is no longer afforded to the people, First People or Canadians, none whatsoever. Right now, we are about 1.8% of those lands are already indebted to foreign powers. And the lower you value them, the system falls. Who is going to inherit those lands? I can promise you, Canadians, it will never be you. First Nations, across the entire board, it will never be you. Right now, it is your politicians, whomever you elect, at all levels, provincial and federal, across all territories, it's theirs. Theirs alone. Which brings me in to Jason Kenney, his release of $143,000 wages for the Treaty Indians of Alberta in oil and gas and pipelines, the money they're making. Sure, everybody's making money, but at what expense? And how many are making that money? Because I can tell you, over the more than 250,000 Alberta First Nations, less than 600 of those are employed at those wages. That's a joke. You talk about percentages on the pluses. There's no pluses for the First Peoples of Alberta. Hardly any. And the government doesn't give the resources to the people. Sure, it's called for in the Constitution. Sure, it was so that Alberta would be part of Confederation. But it was a lie. Because at the end of the day, the government federally and the government provincially through the Crown, again, Section 91 federally, Section 92 repeated again for the provinces. The governments can tax you by any mode, means necessary. Taxation without representation. It was the reason the independence of the United States of America. It was what started the revolution, the War of Independence, what led to the United States of America. And Canadians say it's okay. We won't own nothing, way less than any citizen of China. I know none of you know this, you still don't. which just blows me away. I mean, it doesn't. The government doesn't educate anybody, and they never will. If you're a serious perpetrator of crimes against humanity, why would you ever educate your citizens on that or ever allow that to go forward? We're talking the top historians, the top social studies educators, all of the educational institutions of Canada, absolutely all the legal institutions of Canada, top judges, top lawyers, doesn't matter, best of the best, they are removed from any knowledge of that. Even though you can read the best historians and legal minds in the world today, you try to publish that in Canada like I did a week and a half ago, the government red flags it as abusive to Canadian citizens. Well, which Canadian citizens? Again, it's abusive to the first-class Canadian citizens. Offensive, how dare you tell the second and third-class Canadians the truth? How dare you? It's outlawed across Canada, outlawed in all legal institutions, all education facilities on law. Sick, gross, perverted. That is the patriarchal cross-structure system called Canada. You often say you're just like China. You're not. Nothing like China. Not even close. We're much worse than China. We're a 900-year-old system that hasn't changed at all. It's just gotten craftier, sneakier, and today, in this world, 2021, it is the most corrupt and grievous human rights violators in the world, which, in fact, we are listed in the P5. June 28th, if you haven't watched it yet, we never got vetoed, no. My case is in with ICC. They are not allowed to shut it down, whether they want to or not, until the 28th of June. Which brings me to Roseanne Archibald, National Chief, doing very well. Watch Truth and Reconciliation. That's not the right name of it, but she has a show. Not her, but Mott's has a show every day of the week. But on Friday, Roseanne Archibald showed up. I watched it, shared it for all of you. Going into that, everybody, she did an awesome job. She hits it, nails it. Tomorrow morning, Monday, after work, I'll stay up. I'll be calling her office. I'll be rolling out the education on how to go forward, because we can get it extended. Roseanne says she needs 2 years. 2 years to go through the genocide, finding the bodies and getting the records. I need to smash on the Pope. It's one of the 3 I told you about, projects I'm working on. I need to rally everybody against the Pope and get them, which, not against the Pope, but at least the Canadian bishops, because the Pope's already called on them to turn their back on colonialism. I did all that work. I will be producing all the historical letters and the works I've done. That will be going up on YouTube, shared for all of you. It's there, and there's only one Canadian who did all that work, and you're actually in the live with them right now. People don't want to believe it. The system's working very hard to scrub that out. Is it risky for my life? Possibly, probably, likely going forward. But Roseanne Archibald tomorrow, I'm going to teach her how the UN SCP-5 work, how to maintain the ICC case going forward. And yes, everybody, just that case alone could take 5 years to materialize, maybe 10 years, exactly like South Africa. But I'm willing to teach Roseanne Archibald, National Chief, on her words Friday, on her words in her video Friday alone. I'm going to talk to their office, and for free, I'm going to offer the First Peoples, all First Peoples, a real education and a real path forward for the UNSCP-5 through their actual tools to keep this alive and going, to get extensions every 3 months. But we have to work together. Like it, love it, or hate it, this white third-class citizen is for all of the First People and all of Canadians. The work I'm doing is to free everybody. One thing I've learned, I'm going to talk about racism. In all the work I've done in 4 years straight, do you know how I know there is no difference between a red man, a black man, a yellow man, a white man, a brown man, and all women alike, is not from the idea of the superior side and that action, is that you can count on every race to behave the same way 80% of the time. Me, I. My system's right, everybody else is wrong. As sad as that is, it's why there is no superior race. Everybody is equally at fault in human nature, regardless of color, regardless of ethnic ideas, ideologies, and cultural growths you've done over thousands of years even. People are all the same. And I'm sorry it's in the negative light. Like I said, 80% of all peoples, regardless of race, creed, or color, are not in fact superior at all, but are more likely to fall flat on their face every time and go the way of the animal. The way of the animal. I'm going to go into more detail in another video about that, but that is truth, and it's shown over and over, regurgitated over and over with human beings, regardless of our vast technologies learned, vast things we learn of the universe, we still fall into that category. There's a lot of beautiful people out there, but generally it's a minority. It's a minority. And that kind of nature of human beings always comes up and seems to always win the day. That is the big battle. It's why I stick to just truth, everybody. I take all emotions out of it, all personal views. It's why when I go forward with constitutionalism, it's for everybody. Everybody, not specific special interests or small group ideas or small cultural ideas. Everybody deserves their say, but at the end of the day, what works and what doesn't, what's real and what's not, what has to be exposed, what truths have to be shown the other side of. Again, that concept of there is no left and right, there's only up and down. And right now, Canadians, First Peoples, it's a pyramid. Up top here is the first class, way down here is the third class, sending all the money up to them who send it out to other countries in a Commonwealth system, all designed nearly the same evil way. A 900-year-old system that has no place in the world, and in fact was outlawed and ruled illegal in 1945. Russia, USA, China, UK, France, they have historical works to do. But how do they do the works when nobody's working on the problem? That comes from people like myself and all of you who choose to follow me. Not a popular road. Highly not popular. In fact, most of Canada will work against you. You are a clear minority, a righteous minority. That's reality. We're going to go through the Catholic Church too. We're going to attack this idea so that everybody understands. The Catholic Church was an employee, as was the United Church, the Presbyterians, and on and on and on. We have to go through all of them. The Church, the Catholic Church, is the biggest, not the end-all and be-all, but that's where we have to start. When the Pope comes here, we have to be united together, Canadians of the second and third class, and the First Peoples. Leave the political parties at home. Leave NDP, Liberal, Conservative, because I can promise you, it is no different than South Africa. Again, if people haven't read South Africa pre-1985, the governments of the 1984 and prior, all parties investigated for a 10-year period. The work I'm doing with the UNSCP5, 10-year period, by the time it was all said and done, report after report, quarterly and annually, which I will teach to Roseanne Archibald to keep our case alive and let it unfold. It takes time. I heard her. She needs 2 years to collect those bodies. Now we start reporting to the UNSCP5 through their tools, established boards for that. That's reality. And ICC will go nowhere. I promise you all of this. Will go nowhere. Not for this guy. Not for this guy. I just need Roseanne Archibald on board. And that's what I'm doing tomorrow. I hope we get there. I hope she does it. Because all I can say, First Peoples and Canadians, Nothing can happen to you. Well, it can. Canada can do all kinds of things to me, Roseanne, and many others. The reality is it stays, just like Nelson Mandela, it stays in that system. As long as we keep reporting, we follow their rules, they'll keep logging it. And if they start to see people going to prison for these things, they start to look at the wet sweat, and they look at Cascadia, BC, they look at Caledonia, Ontario, and all of the history of Quebec and the unceded lands, it's going to come around in our favor. The truth will come out, and it will get dealt with. Whether that's 10 years or absolutely the 28 years, it will get done. It will get done, but it takes vigilance, hard work, and true grit. Day after day, reporting every 3 months and absolutely annually, as it has to be, as the system is, not as we all want it to be, because that's not how the world works. Is the world fair? No. But if you navigate it in the true sense of what it is, you can get it done. It may not be exactly the way you wanted it, but that's life. We don't always get what we want. In fact, we hardly ever get what we really want. For a vast majority of third class and almost all First Peoples, you don't get hardly anything you ever wanted. In fact, a lot of shit and abuse. If you want that changed, we work through the system as it really is. We look at everything, not as right or wrong, as it is. Put your personal feelings over here. I know it's hard to do. Get away from opinion news. Get into factual news. That's all I try to do. And if people don't like it, beat it. I don't want you around, because it's already a minority group, and I can't have special interest groups. I have to keep it in with those smart enough, and I hate to say that, smart enough to see outside the box, see things for what they are. And if people aren't like that, go. And you can see it in the silly names. They're Commonwealth names, colonial names, coming from sick histories. And people are proud of that. I'm not. I'm not proud of those pasts. I'm who I am. I'm Dave Bjorkman. I don't have aliases. I don't have nicknames or weird names that bring me into that. You'll see a lot of the trolling. You'll see those names, and they jump out at you. Who are you? A lunatic. That's reality. Thanks. That's my video. Share, share, share. 3 major projects. Lots we just went through. A great Sunday. Bye all.